Perhaps the single greatest hope I see in the midst of the present pandemic is the utter hopelessness that it is revealing to and in the world. Never in history have we been able to observe the entire human race behaving so totally irrationally over such a short period of time. The internet enables us to pick up information from every country on earth, including detailed statistics about such things as the number of people infected and the number of people dying each day from the COVID-19 virus. Along with that, we have access to reports on what people are saying and doing everywhere in the world. But at the moment, this wonderfully unique moment in human history, what we see is almost universally depressing. It has been said that disasters bring out the best and the worst in people. The best can be seen in the dedication of many healthcare workers, but it is so horrifically missing almost everywhere else that it has, for many of us, created one of the most depressing pictures of mankind that has ever been portrayed throughout human history. It is depressing because people have shown so little will to face the problems we now see in front of us and to make the hard decisions needed to deal with them. Even as late as July, the world was still arguing over whether or not to wear masks. We cannot blame it all on conspiracy theorists either. It was the World Health Organization themselves who first started those deadly and patently false rumors that wearing surgical masks would only make things worse. But what we see around the world at the moment is also depressing in terms of how much intelligent people have been prepared to accept such claims without question. Back in March of this year, 2020, my family, a few friends and I decided to make surgical masks in our garage so that we could distribute them around our neighborhood. We made about 2,000 of them. A small, independent online newspaper took an interest, not some sensational tabloid, but a progressive, restrained news outlet called The New Daily. Here is the headline that they used to tell the world about what we were doing. Homemade masks have top medicos sounding alarm. We had hoped that they might have inspired others to do the same, and thus generate a groundswell of support for a dire need throughout the world. That was typical of the gullibility of even the most respected media outlets around the world. They could not see that the warnings against wearing face masks were only because authorities were trying to avoid panic over the fact that there were not enough surgical masks to go around. Yet, with only minimal government or community assistance, cloth, sewing machines, distribution outlets, etc., millions of bored people in lockdown could have met the need globally in a matter of weeks. It could have become an encouraging picture of a world united in doing something positive to overcome a problem which was threatening to destroy millions of lives. The same depressing picture emerges in relation to other practical steps which could have been taken long before now. All over the world, people are thinking short-term, egocentrically, in terms of their personal image, comforts and interests. That includes everyone, from the general public with their refusal to social distance, to politicians and world rulers who point fingers at each other over who is to blame. I was appalled at the flood of people who wrote to Quora, an online question and answer platform that I participate in, asking for tips on how to make money out of the pandemic. Mind you, there is money to be made, but it would have come quite naturally from asking a different question. How can I help solve the problem? Look at the billions now being made from face masks as an example. The same with home deliveries and other initiatives. But when people think money first and practical assistance later, we are always going to be lagging behind. Then there were all of those billions of dollars of so-called stimulus packages. What were they really? Were they going to people who were starving? No. They were going to people who, for the most part, had plenty of food. What governments were trying to do with all that needless spending was to stimulate a boogeyman we call the economy. Common sense should have told us that we're in a situation where we need to forget about toys and fashions and cosmetics and other luxuries and put all our resources into guaranteeing necessities for the masses of the world for the next year or two. We needed to determine how best to maintain essential services while still minimizing infections. It would have necessitated hard lockdowns for all non-essential businesses, and to hell with long-term worries about whether those businesses will survive. We never needed most of them in the first place. People need to change. Economists need to change, and governments need to change. This has actually been a great opportunity to get things into perspective. The new coronavirus has been a wonderful boost to the environment for starters. We know that we can turn climate change around. All it takes is for us to stop making all the junk that we used to make and then learn how to appreciate simple things like healthy food, warm clothing, and dry shelter. With regard to climate change, we have a mini illustration of the positive benefits of hopelessness that I mentioned at the start of this video. Because of the pandemic, it became impossible to have the so-called thriving economy and a healthy environment at the same time that so many of even the most fervent activists campaigned for. And yet, out of that loss of hope for a thriving economy came improvements to the environment, at least in terms of carbon emissions. The coronavirus continues to beat at our door precisely because many have not let go of their false economic hopes. The sooner they do, the sooner everything else could be turned around. But there is a greater breakthrough for the human race that could result from even more hopelessness. If only we could see just how genuinely hopeless the bigger situation is. And that is what I really want to tell you about. Right now, sitting in front of our computer screens, we can be like gods, looking down on this planet and observing the shenanigans of politicians on all sides of the various political spectrums. There are dictators emerging out of the chaos all over the world, taking advantage of our despair to bestow upon themselves unlimited powers, powers which they will never willingly relinquish. We may have elections and choose one over the other, but no matter which side wins, there are no real saviors. Only self-seeking politicians who will do little more than hide the facts or dominate our lives, and all for their own personal gain. It is this wonderful picture of the whole world being hopelessly poised for destruction, which gives me the greatest hope that we may be close to making a truly revolutionary breakthrough as a race. You see, we are not indestructible. This planet is not infinitely sustainable. Our leaders do not have the answers to everything. We could quite literally cease to exist without ever having discovered why we were put here in the first place. I'm trying to get you each to look down on the world like this and consider that it was created for a purpose. We are not here to acquire more and more junk until we die. We are not here to push and shove until we get to the top of some imaginary heap. We were put here to love. To love our spouses and to love our families, yes, but also to love the world around us. To think about what is best for everyone. And when others do not return that love, then we were put here to keep loving them anyway, to even love our enemies to the death if necessary. That is precisely why we exist. There is a spiritual reality that goes beyond this little speck in the universe. What we call life is really just an entrance exam for a far more eternal existence. and we are very close to being given our final grades by the creator of this universe. He promises that some will graduate to a greater universe, a higher plane of existence, an eternal life. This really is going to happen. It is so much more than fairy tales and stained glass windows. God Himself is going to come and judge the world, this incredibly unique center of the universe. Look at it down there and imagine what He thinks. People racing around, shopping and partying, filling every moment with trivia and foolishness, all acting as though their lives will last forever, and like the rat race is all that matters. And the loving heart of God breaks at our utter stupidity. Meanwhile, down here, look up and ask yourself what you need to do to show your Creator up there that you really believe in Him. Stop all your religious bickering. Stop all your religious showcasing. Stop your angry outbursts and deluded pretenses at being smarter than the Creator. Stop it all and fall on your faces before God. Let go of all that you hold on to so tightly. Hand it over to Him and let Him lead you into another dimension, even now, a dimension that He calls the Kingdom of Heaven. A world where God runs the economy, where love dictates our every move, and where faith reigns supreme. It is only when we lose all hope in the political, economic, and religious counterfeits that threaten to suffocate us that we will begin to experience the much greater reality of eternity, for which this life is only preparation. Do you see how a recognition of the true hopelessness of human efforts is what we need if we are ever going to begin to live as we were intended to live? I don't think the coronavirus pandemic is the end. Eventually, we may come up with a vaccine, or more likely, most of us, will just learn to live in a world where a lot of people die from this disease. Our average lifespan may drop by a year or two. Millions will be buried, but for the rest of us, life will go on. But what will we do with such a reprieve? Will we go back to thinking that our indomitable human spirit brought us through it all? That one political power over the other saved us? Or at least that a change in leaders will make it right? Or will we remember that sooner or later, each one of us is still going to leave this planet and drift off into that other dimension, the dimension we call eternity? Even atheistic science accepts that the universe itself is finite. It has a beginning and it will one day have an end. Many of them accept that there is something else, a concept at least, that transcends time and space, even if it exceeds our comprehension. And that concept is eternity. Through faith in God, the Creator of all this, we can have access to that other dimension. He has promised this. He has spoken most clearly to the people of this planet through the teachings of His Son, Jesus of Nazareth, the one they call the Christ. We who have made this video are representatives of this Jesus, around whose birth all of human life is measured. We have listened to Him and we have believed Him, and He has changed our lives forever. Please write to us today at the address on screen if you would like to know more about what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ, the literal Son of the living God. I look forward to hearing from you. May God bless you.